Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, a Kia Milan Design Week special edition. Yes, that sounds a lot like us, doesn't it? Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. Even more so that it was I who went.
Well, that was what I was going to say next. It wasn't the person who was the designer who went. It was Joe Soap there.
It is the man who mocks everyone for wielding crayons and everything. Great, yes.
And Milan Design Week, by the way, used to be called Milan Fashion Week, which just makes it even funnier.
Anyway,
yes,
why I went is because for the last now 3 years, Kia has commissioned artwork and an exhibition during Design Week in Milan. And this year they did the same, but they also brought some vehicles for the first time, some of them, for the first time they were shown off in Europe. And the title for their installations was Transcend Journey. Now, prepare yourselves because I'm going to read some of the wording that has been prepared by Kia themselves for this, so do buckle up a little bit.
I've just heard you distance yourself as quickly as possible from what you're about to read out.
This is not me, clearly.
No.
The whole idea apparently behind Transcend Journey is that it is to, and I'm quoting here, explore the evolution of mobility, highlighting how Kia's innovative vehicles break the boundaries between urban and outdoor experiences. I'm not going to discuss the artwork, although it was fabulous to go and experience it and to see it. And it really was a full experience as well. It wasn't just a case of looking at something.
Yeah, you said it was multi-sensory.
Multi-sensory, definitely. It was excellent. I would have loved to spend longer just absorbing some of that. But what they did is that the car side of things, which is what we're all, if you're listening, is probably what you're more interested in, is how they wanted to show that the vehicles were adaptable and there was the customization potential of particularly the PBV, which is the new electric van, but also they wanted to show off the concept for the EV2, which was excellent to see because it's the first time that's been in Europe, as well as the PV5 WKNDR, where someone had stolen all the vowels, which was a campervan take or overland campervan take on the PV5.
If you listen to the normal news show, of course, you'll have heard us talk about this over the last little while as these were released and announced, and we covered them as part of new car news. So it was, as a concept, it's always doubly cool to then see them in real life and check that what you thought before from pictures and words on screens is still valid. So that was a great opportunity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to start off first with the EV2 concept. And this is a B-segment SUV. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, SUV. But it's not that tall, though. So this is more like a crossover.
So it's more Yaris Cross type size.
It's not taller than that.
Okay.
It's not particularly as it's been in the news in the last 24 hours, if you were on social media when we record this, it's not a big hulking SUV that will mow down passengers. It's actually a very friendly, small city SUV, urban SUV. Now, what we got to see, but not touch, what we got to see was only a concept, and it is clear some of the elements will not make it to production. The overall design is pretty much there. I mean, they had things like actual realistic sized wing mirrors, stuff like that, but there was no B-pillar and a suicide door, so that's not going to make it.
No door handles, or even hint of a door handle, which is how you know something's a concept.
Yeah, the A-pillars were very thin. That won't make it because of structural requirements and safety requirements. It's those little touches that will change when it comes to it, but the overall shape, and it'll be interesting to see what they transfer from what was shown on the interior to the exterior, because that was quite a thing.
The interior is definitely more concepty than the exterior, you know.
Yes.
You've got the basically nothing dashboard, a bench front seat, very stylistic pedals, all of these kinds of things. And yet, the sort of Kia Hyundai double screen display, which looks kind of production-y.
Yes.
across the middle, but everything else, you know, there's no air vent, there's no face fences, nothing like that. It's just textured fabric.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with the outside. If you look at this, and there will be pictures in the show notes, if you look at this, then you will recognize that it's an electric vehicle from Kia, particularly if you've seen the 9 and the 3. It's got that very much that face where it's quite a blunt front end, but it's sort of curved and molded, so it's not like a full-on slab. It's got the vertical lights, which is very recognizable, and it's just quite a clean design. There isn't huge dents and slashes in the sides. They haven't done anything ridiculous with a grille up the front either. It's very recognizably a Kia, which is an interesting move from Kia, who had previously, until the last couple of years, had gone very much each individual model is an individual thing.
Yes.
And now there is a more common design language coming through.
I think that's important in the EV space, not so much to differentiate them, but to increase awareness.
Possibly, yeah. And we've talked before about the more boxy shape is being considered, or is thought to be considered as a more luxury type design from consumers. Because there's been, I can't remember what the model was we were talking about, but they were specifically saying it wasn't a Kia car, but they were specifically saying that it was considered luxury by consumers, that this more boxy look compared to sort of melted soap.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's a really nice looking car, I have to say, and the blue was really phenomenal. I'm not sure that it'll make it to production because it's a sort of satiny finish.
Yeah, it's a kind of satiny sort of powder blue, isn't it?
Yeah.
And really nice, yeah, as you say. It's a bit different and distinctive, and it manages to not be silver or grey, which is always a win.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned before, though, Alan, the interior was a real big deal for them. They talked a lot about how one of the principles behind the EV2 concept was the urban picnic. And this is where it was explained to us that you rock up in a car park, you open the side doors, you've moved the front seats because the front seat bench moves backwards and forwards on a rail. I'll go into that in a minute. And you create this sort of outdoor-indoor space. You're able to, again, a concept, you're able to take the speakers and move them out of the doors and everything, so you can have a little party on the edge of your car. I'm not sure that's going to work so well in, say, Nuneaton.
No, me neither.
I like the thought behind it, and I can see sort of if you're, say, Australia or America, where there is more space and people do more stuff outside because the weather is a bit more clement, then perhaps.
Well, no, it actually works quite well, I think, if it's not so clement. But you can open it, and it's like having your own little cabin.
Yeah.
That you can take along, and then you can set up a barbecue just outside, in the space that's left, and all that kind of thing. And it's like having a beach hut on wheels and not necessarily at a beach.
Yes. It is a more idealistic life, which perhaps we'd all really prefer to be able to enjoy, to be fair.
It's aspirational, and that's one of the points of concept.
Yeah.
Here's something that will help you have the life you aspire to.
But it is actually a really big space on the inside, moving on. Particularly the way that it's a completely flat floor. And it's still surprising how many EVs don't make more of that.
I think it depends on the platform.
Yeah. And this feels that they were really exploring that with this concept. Materials is also a really big deal. They've done a lot of work with companies that use recyclable material as well as plant-based materials. So you've got the likes of B Comp, who we've discussed recently on the Motoring Podcast News Show, and they worked with them with their flax fibers, which is their Amplitext trademark composite manufacturing process, where they have made the back seat shells and the front seat substructures, so it's actually being used in a structural environment. Then they also have worked with other companies such as BioMike, which is using biodegradable mycelium components, mushroom.
Yes, that's what I read.
Including hemp and mushroom. And that was used to help make some of the panels on the inside, but also they use some of it for insulation in the door cards and the door panels as well. So that was an interesting use, and it's very light, obviously. Not only were these materials recyclable or of recycled material or plant-based, but also there was a thought had gone into the weight of the car as well.
Yeah, with EVs, it makes all the difference because if you've got less weight, you need less power to carry it around, which means your battery gets smaller, which are all these other things that people like Neil Khan have been preaching to us for years.
Yeah, it's B segment, isn't it? So there is only so much battery they can cram in there anyway. They need to think around that. Otherwise, it's, hello, here's this SUV with 150-mile range, which people still today, understandably, balk at when you look at equivalent ICE or hybrid. Because we've been programmed through marketing to believe we need all the range in the world.
Yes.
But the interior was fun. There's lots of LED lighting as well, internal stuff. So there was some around various aspects of the door cards. There was some around the underside of the seats. It was all to make it, and it really was. It did look it from just standing outside and peering at it. It did look a big, airy space, even though the footprint wasn't big. And that was really interesting and something that I did actually manage to ask the designers about, because what will come up in a moment on the podcast is an interview where we discussed some of the aspects of the EV2 concept, which you get to listen to. But just be warned, I recorded this on site in the open environment that was the exhibition.
Yes, there are exhibition-y noises in the background, but it's worth sticking with it because it's really interesting. It's always great when we can have first-person witness statements on here, but, from people explaining their actual intent as opposed to our understanding of their intent. Have a little listen to that.
But do note that I interviewed them before they gave the presentation to explain all aspects of the car. The questioning I have is a bit more general than too much specificness about what they have explained.
My name is Jochen Paassen. I'm head of future design for Kia, and I'm based in the Seoul studio.
My name is Andre Franco Luis, and I'm the head of future design for the US for Kia.
And my name is Tom Kearns, and I'm the chief designer for Kia Design Center America in Southern California.
Thank you very much. We've got two vehicles to talk about today, two really interesting vehicles. Sorry, I was spending so much time looking around because it's the first time they've been into Europe. Is that true, isn't it? Both the concepts. So we've got the EV2 concept and we've got the PV Weekender, which is a take on the electric van that was shown by Kia earlier in the year. If we can start with the EV2, it says concept on it. How much of what we see is concept-y?
You're starting with a good question. So, as you will know, with all our Kia concepts that we do, there is some truth behind it. It's not that far away. I think for us, what was important is to introduce a small Kia, a Kia that basically sits underneath what we've done so far. And I think what you will be seeing in the near future will be pretty close to what you see here today.
Okay, there's obviously some bits that clearly are concept-y, but it's nice to see wing mirrors, for example, that look like real wing mirrors. That's always a tell. You can see how close that is. But on the interior side of things with that, I was very interested to see, it looks like there's a lot of composite recyclable materials. Is that correct?
That's correct. So for the interior, what was important was that we create something that feels large on a relatively small footprint. So I think that identity, that visual identity, was very, very important to us. But we wanted to make sure it's super clean, super reduced. And once you do that, the materials you use or the way you do things becomes much more important. You can't hide anything. You can't embellish things. You have to really start to look at each material, each finish, each area, and really think it through. And so we wanted to use the concept as also for us a platform to look at and to demonstrate all the work we're doing on sustainability. So be it the biomaterials, be it the center beam on the interior, which is actually created from repurposed materials from our car. So leather that's been repurposed has been molded together and has been created into a new form. these are all studies for us to look at how can we within design in the near future start to bring some of these things to life. So the concept car does two things. One, it shows what's coming in the near future, but also it shows all the work we're doing, all the things we're working on, studying, trying to bring into production.
I think that's something that perhaps us on the outside do forget, is the concept car is very important internally for a company as well, because you're being given the chance to explore something that obviously you don't have the same commercial pressure, shall we say, on a car where that has to work. The car that comes out to us that has to work, as it were. I was very interested with the amount of space in there, and that's something, and this is a personal thing, I felt has not really been explored yet with electric vehicles, is the freedom of space. Do you think and then this is not a Kia specific here, because I think you do make your cars very airy and they're very roomy, but there is still, feels a little bit of a hangover from internal combustion engine. Is it because we're in an adjustment period for us consumers, and it's a case of not scaring? We are conservative with the small C car buyers. We're not usually up for going for something outrageous, particularly if you look at the driveways of Britain. They know what they like and they go for it. So is it a case of helping us get to the stage where we can go, actually, this is hugely different from what we had 15, 20 years ago?
I think it's a combination of all those things, right? I think if you look at this vehicle or some of the recent vehicles compared to 10 years ago, it is much more spacious. There is a lot more room. There's a lot more features and functions and possibilities than, let's say, 10 years ago. I do believe we're in a little bit of a transition period still. What's important is Kias need to remain affordable. We need to be able to produce great products at an affordable price. So it's always this trade-off, this balance. What is the maximum I can do with my limitations, be it safety, be it engineering, be it price, and how do I make the most of it? And I think our designers, they spend a lot of time looking at that sort of combination of limitations or actually opportunities, as we always say, and making sure that we actually make the most. So small footprint, not a lot of space, but through its design, be it styling, through its features, product design areas, through how we design the interior, we're also able to give it that spacious feeling and sort of make steps in the right direction.
Is there within Kia a lot of crossover between the various teams, like the engineering, design and that? Because you look at other brands and other cars and sometimes you go, you guys didn't talk. But so I'm presuming this does happen in Kia because of the way that you can, as you say, economies of scale. You've got to go for it's got to work financially at the end of the day, and the way that Kia is positioned in the UK market certainly is that it's attracting. You're in a position where you are attracting from both ends and the middle of the market, which is quite a trick you're pulling off, I have to say.
I've just transitioned actually from interior design, head of interior design to head of future design. So I spent 5 years in Korea working on the production work. And in that, you get to see that communication is key. The way we work, they're relatively short programs. We do sketch to production in about 3 years, which is pretty quick. It means you have to be efficient in your decision making and what you bring to the table and why you're doing something. And if you get the buy-in, if people understand it and they say, "Yep, this is the right thing for the car," everybody will be behind you and they will push. And I think that's quite unique. I don't think there is many places I've worked where you can get and make a significant difference within a production project in such a short time. So that's quite special, I would say. And that only works through communication and collaboration.
That's interesting to hear.
I think also to your initial question, an EV architecture is perfect to create opportunity space, everything above the battery, right? And I think that the EV2 is one of these great examples showcasing that, right? What is possible. And actually also with moving the seats back and forth so that it creates way more space than what we're used to from an ICE platform. more.
It really struck me that that suddenly there is this actual platform. It's not you're in the front, you're in the back. There's a platform to work with, which must be exciting I was going to say play, that's not the right word.
No, we do.
It puts it down, that makes it sound as though it's a bit frivolous, but the ability that you've got freedom, sorry, is probably a better word.
No, but play is also a good word, because it's we don't take it too seriously. We like to try new things, do new things, play around with things. So, yeah, we can definitely use that word. Not a problem.
That was my interview regarding the EV2 concept. Hopefully you got something from that. But now let us move on to the PV5 Passenger. Wasn't expecting the PV5 Passenger to be there. Now, this we have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
This is their electric van that Kia are bringing out, but it was set up in, guess what, Alan? Passenger spec.
So that makes sense.
It's nice to see that they have actually followed the Motoring Podcast scheme of naming things.
Oh, is that literally its name?
Yes, it is PV5 Passenger.
That's exactly what it says on the tin, doesn't it? What's to argue with on that?
Absolutely. Oh, this was the one vehicle we were actually allowed to poke around and prod at. We could open the doors, we could have a good look around and see some of the details from it. But this is a, what do you call it? Typically normal transit-sized...
It's a van.
Van.
Volkswagen Transporter, Caravelle,
yeah,
whatever the equivalent name is now for the passenger one.
Yeah.
That's the size and scale we're looking at here, a Transit Custom.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. This was set up to on display to take 5 people. Therefore, there was a bench behind the front 2 seats that had 3 individual seats in them, and then there was an enormous boot. I think that there were seats in the boot, but whilst we could prod, we couldn't prod too much. Or if there weren't seats in the boot, I'm sure there is an option that there are seats in the boot. Likewise, captain's chairs, if you're going to do super executive transporting and stuff.
Let's face it, that's all going to be available because I'm sure a key market for this is going to be airport transfers, hotel transfers, all of that kind of thing.
And off you go to enjoy the configurator at that point.
Basically, yes. I mean, you can see it's meant to be there. There's markings in the floor and everything.
Yeah.
Cup holders and stuff tend to be a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah. Looking around the car, the van, they have clearly given this some thought beyond just how do we enter into the market? Do we just copy? There's little design touches here and there, such as behind the front seats, at the bottom of the front seats, there's little trays in which you can put stuff rather than the pocket behind the seat. And they actually look much more useful than me just describing there's a tray below the seat. They look like they will hold stuff helpfully, like they'll hold your wallet, keys, a phone, and it won't bounce around everywhere either. It does look handy from that point of view. Up front, there's lots of little spaces and areas in which to put things, as you would imagine from a normal just working van. Copy
of a tabloid newspaper, empty iron brew bottle, coffee cups.
The dashboard is plenty wide, deep enough to do that. But actually, talking of the cups and stuff in the door cards, there are lots of space for various sized drinks and everything. They've gone and thought about it. Up front is not been ignored either. They've got an inbuilt phone holder, so you don't have to try and stick one on a windscreen or try and put it through an air vent or something like that. That's already built into the car, which is, when you think about it, is mad others don't do that.
Well, that's so important for the van market.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing, along with places to store paperwork, places to store drinks bottles, you know, where people are using these all day, every day, that kind of thing. It really brings in new customers because it's obviously a new segment for Kia in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it also just makes people happy to be there, want to buy another one, all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed, by the way, in the back. So often when you see these sort of passenger versions of vans, for want of a better term, and I'm sure someone's going to say, but we designed it this way from the start. And obviously they did. But there isn't always a lot of attention given to things like the door cards.
Yeah.
often it says, right, okay, let's clad this in plastic because it can't just be metal. Right, that's all we've got rid of them for in order to fit these 3 seats across. Whereas here there are proper car-like door bins, handles, all of these kinds of things, even though they're slidey doors.
Yes, absolutely. And they were very keen to point that sort of stuff out to us. But not only that, as this one's set up, in the back, in the boot, which was obviously huge, you would hope it would be huge, it's a van, but it really was an enormous space. Again, with some useful cubby holes, which, as you indicated, give a very strong hint that there could be seats in the back there. But this one had a bar, a rail, across the full width just behind the back row of seats.
By the way, that's from the roof just behind the front seats. It's not down at floor level, because at first I thought Andrew was about to go and describe some sort of bike rack or something which you can put back there, which I have seen before. But no, having a rail like that so that you can, I don't know, hang shirts.
Well, they said in their home country, obviously businessmen are all very much wearing suits all the time, and it was there as a rail to hang the suits on, the suit jackets, whilst they're being transported along.
Yeah.
They've really thought down to who is going to use this, why are they going to use it, and what touches can we put in that will benefit them, that make them interested.
A long time ago when I was at university still, I spent summer teaching maths and English in Bangkok, in Thailand. And I would love to say that it was teaching poor children who wouldn't have had education otherwise and all these things, but it wasn't. It was teaching little rich kids. And lots of them got driven to the school. And sure enough, they had an S-Class and they had all these, or a 7 Series or something like that. And maybe a small Toyota hatchback as well or something for people to ferry folk around in, or depending on where they were going to park. But they also, many of these families in the Far East, they also had, very often it was a Volkswagen sort of T4 minibus or a Mitsubishi Delica or one of these type of vehicles to carry the family around, because they'd have a driver and they would take them around, or do some multi-stops with people. And that's exactly the kind of market outside of the UK and outside of Europe. That's exactly the kind of market I can see this aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that makes it.
Especially with that kind of thing in the back, especially those kinds of situations, I think that's where I would expect to see this used. And again, that detail, those little bits of usefulness, like, okay, delivering someone to the office in the morning.
Yeah.
And then, okay, right, put the jacket on, get out, and then go into the offices where you're big businessman or head of the police force or any of these roles. That's the kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can see that, certainly.
Place I'd see that.
Yep. One last final thing I wanted to say about up front is I was astonished at how much glass there was for the driver. The side windows go down really low, which I think is brilliant.
Great in urban environments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the external design. I like the way that they've got the lights running vertical that lead up into the A-pillars that as you said before, as we've discussed on the show when we've mentioned them. But it was really nice to see it up close. I think this is serious competition for the likes of Mercedes and VW and Ford.
Yeah.
Particularly because it just got announced this week, the technical specifications of the PV5, and weight-wise, it will remain a light commercial vehicle.
Commercial vehicle, yeah, it's under the 3.5 tons.
It stays under the 3.5 tons, and it's got a decent range. And the price point for the PV5s, I'm not sure on the passenger, but for the PV5s is really good compared to the competition.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Kia is a very successful brand at the moment. It is doing well globally. The whole group is doing well globally. So they can afford to do that, to push into a new segment and to take advantage of that, and to not make as big a profit as they might need to make per unit if they weren't quite as successful, and push it that way. We've liked the PV5 for quite a long time, since we saw the first concept.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you got a chance to see one up close and personal very, very early on in its sort of launch and reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that wasn't the only version of the PV5 that was there, was it?
No. Saving the Weekender, which is spelt WKNDR.
Sounds like some kind of American radio station, doesn't it? WKNDR.
Well, yes. Funny you should mention it was designed by the California studio. And no, they wouldn't confirm that they had found their vowels that had gone missing. But this is the overland version of the PV5. And they have really gone to town in a, well, I felt, very cool way. They've tricked it out. They've raised it up. They've put it on chunky tires. They've added plastic cladding. That's always a win for us.
Yay!
They've explored what you could do or maybe want to do with an off-road camper. On the outside, okay, here we go. Just strap in for some of these. On the outside, there is at the front a winch, but not only is it just a winch, there's a screen on the winch that tells you how much force it's using or power in which to pull either yourself or someone else out of trouble or whatever it is that you're doing. Which I thought was a really interesting touch. Not that I've ever used a winch, but I don't know how useful one might find that.
The one that's useful is actually how much line do you have left?
Okay, right. Yeah, well,
when you pull it out, I mean, mostly it's useless because you would just look through the little slot and see. But it's really cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't like it or want it.
Yeah, and then if you move up towards the A-pillars, they've got the obligatory branch deflectors.
Yeah, all right, move on. But perfect for jungle exploration.
Quite. On the roof, there's a pop-up tent element with the solar panel on the top of it, which they were confident that they had information of how much power that could generate. But also what it meant was it's one of those that it helps you able to walk around the back without having to bend over, but also you can then add a bed element in the evening, and it's a sleeping quarters for some people there.
So it wasn't a separate roof tent, it was a sort of expand.
Yeah, it was that sort of
raising roof type thing.
Yeah, it's the triangle version where the back pops up but the front's hinged.
You see them on Volkswagen Californias and stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff. When you get to the sides, though, it starts to get a bit different, because on one side, there was a sliding rear door that slid down the length of the vehicle, and that was on the passenger side. Remember, this is a left-hand drive vehicle because it was designed in California. The passenger side slid down, and then the passenger door would open, and that whole space was pillarless again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an enormous entrance into the side there, but also allows for so much ease of access. But on the opposite side, there is a panel that slides at 90 degrees out from the...
So like an extending segment in an RV or something.
Yes, absolutely that. And with that, what the designers had envisaged is there'd be, say, like a cooking space down the side there. And that panel that slid out would have storage, so it would have your pots and pans, your herbs, your herbs, because it's America, or such like. But they were like, no, this is just a different way of doing things, creating more space. There was a lot of bringing the inside out and the outside in the whole scheme of this.
Yeah, so lots of the sort of lightweight off-road camping trailer type things have that, where you have a bed area that's enclosed, but then the kitchen and stuff is external.
Yep.
All these kind of things. I can see where they've carried that over. They've carried stuff over from that, or ideas over from that, and incorporated it all into the van. Yeah,
there was a lot of talk as well about how easy they felt it would be to have temporary awnings over certain areas of the vehicle, so that you even though you're outside, you are undercover, which is important depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah,
with the climate. So that was really interesting that they thought that through as well.
I mean, I'm glad I don't have one of those or anything.
And then you get to the back, and as the aim is to go into the deep wilderness, or at least you're not going to be near any normal amenities, shall we say.
You should go to Utah or any of these places where there's and out towards Moab, all that kind of stuff. The types of YouTube channels I see regularly, you see two-wheel drive Ram vans, so that's a Fiat Ducato type thing getting towed out, and again, it's these kind of things, but not in as professional, integrated a way, and also a much bigger van.
Yeah,
doing it. So yeah, this is again, it's great to see them really thinking about it. It's very fashionable at the minute.
Yeah. Well, because they realise you're not going to be near anywhere, there's an external battery pack that could be used to power ancillary items, which would take the charge from the solar panel off the roof to top that up. So you could do things like you could have lights hanging up in the evening. You could have the hob could be an electric halogen rather than gas, which probably makes it space saving and better to use in windy conditions or outside.
Yeah,
because the temperature is more controllable,
more efficient as well. Induction hobs and stuff are quite popular for that. I've done some research into this. Can you tell?
You basically charge up your devices. You think of it that you need something to plug in, it will be able to do it. And that's excellent. But part of the concept was that the battery pack would be charged by wind turbines in the wheels. Yes, you heard that correct. Wind turbines in the wheels. Now, this was designed in California. And over there, they have a problem of taking advantage of gusting wind, which isn't good for the typical wind generators that are out on the market at the moment. They've got this idea of using a particular design that's stuck in the actual hubs of the wheels, or that would be able to take advantage of the gusting. It's very much an on-paper idea at this stage, which not all the journalists there could grasp that when they were told that, so they wanted finite technical details on the spot.
Yeah. No, they're going to want to be patenting that kind of idea.
Yeah. On paper, it technically could do it, and they feel confident that it would be able to produce a fair amount of electricity, but it is a paper exercise at the moment. But I love the fact that they thought to that extent, that they go, hang on, why can't we take advantage of these things? Or can't we use that nobody else is? And putting them in the wheels, that's a really interesting place to locate them as well, because it's not taking up any extra space on the vehicle. You're not having to put something up. You're not having to pull out a panel or anything like that. It's constantly there. So that was an interesting way to approach that issue. Whether we ever see it or not, who knows?
No. Something that seems a bit more familiar, though, was the modular system for hanging stuff and transporting stuff, which sounds remarkably like the Milwaukee pack-out system for tools and screws and gear, where you can hang it on your wall in your garage, you can hang it on the wall in your van, you can clack it all together, and it's super cool. And this is a great use of a concept like that.
Well, they actually used the off-the-shelf system that is available in America. They didn't name what it was, so I don't know if it was that exact one, but they're saying...
It's probably the Milwaukee. It's the most famous one.
They said it's the one that's in garages typically for them. And the idea behind that was, how can we make it as easy as possible for you to go from let's go to actually going? Because what's one of the major hurdles? It's packing, isn't it? It's taking stuff and putting it in another thing and then securing it. But they've put all that in place where you just take it off the slot in your garage and slot it in the appropriate place in the inside of the van, and off you go. And I thought that was interesting because they've looked at pain points all along the way here.
If I was smarter, then I would have invested in that particular system. I didn't. But again, I've done similar. I have a box full of camping stuff. I have a box of car stuff, and they are modular and of the same brand because it's me. And so the idea is I can just go, okay, pack.
Yeah.
Because I suck at packing.
Yeah. Nobody wants to pack, do they? Nobody wants to. No. You just want to just go, don't you?
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, some of the rails are actually electrified. Now that sounds horrific. Don't get me wrong. You actually have to have the right connector for it to activate and be using the electricity. So, but that's where you could slot in a radio or speakers or lights or whatever, and they were marked up with yellowy green paint that showed which ones were electrified. And I thought that was a really interesting idea as well of how to take advantage of the renewable energy that they would be generating there.
Awesome. And that makes a lot of sense when you've got an electric van, you've got onboard battery power, all these things. Why not take advantage of that? And you've got the ability to trickle charge with solar and with wind and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. The floor wasn't ignored either. That was it was a recycled composite material out of old Nike trainers. There was apparently a bit of give in the floor as well. Again, no idea how much give.
You were allowed into it.
We weren't allowed near enough to touch it, so don't worry.
The way you were going, they would have had to wipe it down afterwards anyway.
Well, no, I was just going to steal it, do I? You'll never take me alive, etc., etc. No, you didn't even make it out of Milan.
Will these fit in a Berlingo?
But in the floor, there were channels where elements of the vehicle could be slid around. So, like the front seat could be changed. The front passenger seat, that is, could be changed in how it was looking. So you could lay it all flat, but then you could slide it into the back along the channel so that it would create like a bench seat or a small table. There was what looked like the rear bench in there had been lain flat, folded over and lain flat, and was a table for the rear compartment. But also there was seating panels that dropped down from the side of the walls of the van. So you had the seats there as well. You could eat inside or whatever it was, or having a drink if the weather wasn't clement outside. Again, they thought to that extent. If you listen, there will be another interview segment that's going to come after this. And if you listen to that, you will understand how much effort they put into designing this, how much thought has gone into this. And I was really interested to hear them discuss that. Because it was...
Really?
Yes. Because it's one thing to slap big chunky tyres on a load of cladding and some fancy paintwork and make it look cool. And, oh yes, I'm sitting there happy, clapping like a sea lion, waiting for some fish at that point, generally.
He is, by the way, for those of you who can't see what he's doing at the other end of this video call, that is exactly what's happening.
But they'd actually thought the details through again. And this was a running theme through the day for me, was how much thought they put into the details, how much thought they put into the end use of it, even though this is only a concept. And even if they can bring out a weekender, it's not going to have all the elements they've shown. Clearly, they won't have the wind turbines in the wheels. And I question whether it would have like the front screens on the winch, all that sort of stuff.
What you're trying to say is you would be delighted if they brought out a slightly cladded, tougher looking, feeling inside trim level called Weekender, and that would make you a happy bunny.
It would very much make me a happy bunny. It was just great. But they thought through what's going to make it easier, better, more fun. They thought that through, and I really like that. But we have to badger Kia. All of us has to badger Kia to say, we love this. Please make as close an approximation to this as possible.
Yeah.
Because at the minute there are no plans, but they were very cagey when they were pushed upon this. And I feel that if enough noise was made, Kia would seriously consider, because they're not a company that is adverse to listening to what people want, which is an interesting, which I think possibly suggests the success at the moment, possibly.
Basically, they're not against the whole idea. They just, somebody has to prove that it is actually, that you can write a business case for it beyond, hey, that's cool.
Yes. Although that works just enough for me. But there we are.
Yeah, I know. But you chatted to the designers again, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We got to discuss the weekend and also elements of the PV5 as well. There was a little bit of discussion about that, which was really interesting. Again, it just reinforces that we've talked to people who are going to use this. We're going to discuss what are your pain points. Do you know this is a pain point or not? And that sort of stuff. Please do listen to that. It was fascinating. And I'm really thankful to everybody who gave up their time to speak to me and enable me to bring that to you guys to listen to.
Well, talking of play, the PV5 Weekender, that looks amazing. You don't have to wrap it up. I'll just take it with me. It's fine. Thank you. No, that does look like fun to have worked on.
That is definitely we were playing with that one, and the whole idea with that project was we took the PV5, which is a great vehicle in its own right and serves a purpose, which I think is going to be very significant. But Andre and I, sitting in the California studio, we were like, what could we do with that to make it ripe for what's happening in our area of the world. And it's such a big. I know it's a worldwide trend, but especially in Southern California, with overlanding and adventure vehicles and the desert and the beach, and
well, you've got all the environments. To be
right?
fair,
Exactly.
you are a bit spoiled.
Yes. So we're like, let's just take that foundation of a great vehicle and tune it to what we would do with our own vehicle.
Yeah. It looks interesting as well in there because it looks like you've explored future possibilities with, look, hang on, can we make this a long life vehicle where it can be adapted over time, or it's going to serve lots of different purposes but still the same core vehicle is there, but it could do, like, it's going to be a people carrier, or this one is fabulous off-road adventure wagon. That I found very interesting as well.
So there are multiple levels of design, right? And obviously, from an extra perspective, you want to make a rugged-looking, cool van that actually shines by the stands when it's closed. But I think the big challenge on that car also was to create something that is very efficient package-wise, and then create kinematics that actually, when it opens up, it creates a lot more space, right? And I think this combination of going from classic extra design, classic into design, but saying, like, how can we create a holistic product that is actually clever by creating beyond organization. I don't know if you have looked at it precisely, but we have the rail concept in the vehicle that actually adheres to a rail concept that we find in the US and worldwide. And it's a bit the idea to actually, when this vehicle is catered specifically to whatever your lifestyle is, active, outdoor, or you just like cooking with a view, is that we actually create elements and accessories that you could have neatly stored in your garage, but it actually just takes you a second by plug and playing to set you up for the next adventure, and really giving that time back to the customer.
It reminded me a lot, and if this is with nothing to it reminded me a lot of Airstreams, because I've stayed in a couple, and it's the way that so much of what was in there was at least dual purpose, if not having three purposes, and that really struck me, that what you've done there, and I love seeing that sort of design, where I love seeing clever design anyway, but that the level of thought. So did you get and I don't know if this is still a dirty word in the industry, but where you had focus groups, or was this all you guys internally working together and going, right, this would be awesome, how about this? And
so one of my briefings was, I don't want to find anything that you research on the internet, right? And we actually, part of this, we send out 4 designers into the desert to explore the pain points, right? But also because we have that in our backyard, right? A lot of us also drive Jeeps on the weekends, and all of that experience. So this is a vehicle that's built on experience. It's not built on something that you see in the internet, and it's just a fancy picture. It's really about going out, understanding pain points, understanding how long it takes to set up for camping, which is substantial. And that all fuels into this design that we then created to capture really the essence of it.
That is interesting, hearing that it's from lived experiences, because it must be a trick for all of you, between a very fine balance between, we've created something that we know the customer wants, but also we want to show them because they don't know yet. And when they experience it, they'll go, or even better, they go, well, why wasn't this done years ago?
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's the challenge of our job, basically.
I think, that's also, PV5 was created in a similar way, so that the actual production car, we spent a lot of time inviting potential users to Kia, to the design studio, to talk with them about the plus points, the minus points, what are the things that they, in their job, in what they do, works well, what doesn't work well, so that we could tap into their their experiences, but also we presented them things that maybe they didn't expect to see. Is this answering a problem that you didn't know you had, or you just gotten used to because, well, you've always done it that way. So we try to use these sessions really to understand a little bit in both directions. Where can we learn? Because of course we're new in that area, but also what can we bring that maybe is not thought about because people are just used to it. And I think that mindset, or the way we've done that, has been really, really enriching. And our designers actually were very excited about those things, because you're designing with a purpose. You're designing with a problem to solve. And I think when you do things in that way, you come up with a product that makes a lot of sense, and that really sets you on to new things and new ideas and finding new solutions. So it's been very, very helpful.
Before we did the Weekender, we showcased the 4 PVVs actually at CES last year.
Yeah.
Right? And the way we set it up, we didn't show them in isolation. We knew they were there to serve a purpose. So we created these 4 individual elements, placeholders in the booth, talking about the urban environment, talking about the plant, the ride hailing that picks you up from a park, and also home integration, to really key to every customer and to the press that actually these cars are not isolated, and they shouldn't be perceived isolated, but we actually design for an environment.
That's a big step, I think, for, say, the car owner, to understanding and appreciating that there is a crossover and what are the benefits of the crossover. And I don't think anyone to date successfully pulled it off, because unfortunately I think the first thing that people see what's happened is, it's a subscription, hang on. And I think the narrative needs to be changed, and it'll be interesting to see how the likes of yourselves and the car industry can get the message across that it can be a positive thing. It is not a negative, or it is not just one-sided. It is actually to make your life easier as the owner and the user. There are things in there that, no, this is to make your life easier. This is not just because on a whim. And that's really interesting. And it also sounds like you guys really enjoy your job. You really want to go into the office when you do. And that's awesome to hear. Thank you very much for your time. I could prattle on at you for so long now, but I realise there are other people here and I can't be that selfish. So thank you very much for your time and speaking to the Motoring Podcast.
So that was the interview there. If you want to learn more about the Weekender, there is an excellent article written by Sam Huff on Average Janes, which will be linked in the show notes. Do click that. There's a bunch of pictures as well. Obviously, our show notes are going to be full of pictures. Thank you to Kia for the pictures of the various vehicles. We were not supposed to be using our own phones to take photos. A photographer was assigned to help us out. There's some photos there that are very grateful for Kia to, which were taken in situ, we're able to share with you.
Excellent. So come on then. You got shuffled off to Milan.
Yes.
I'm sure you got fed nice food. You got shown art.
Yes.
You got to speak to designers.
I'm so cultured.
You got to get yourself all excited about the Weekender.
Yep.
What were your takeaways from the day, from the Jolly?
First and foremost, the cars look really good. I really like the designs. And I can see on the PV5, I could see it with the Weekender as well, but that's not real yet. And just as importantly, the EV2 concept, I can see people rushing to buy them. Good-looking vehicles.
That's what people keep saying, and EV3 is very popular.
If the technical specs and the real-world abilities match up to the looks and what we have been told, as much as we have been told, or as we feel would be realistic, then they will. I am sure they are going to, and there's nothing to suggest that Kia claim a certain thing and provide something else, because up to now they've been pretty close to what they've officially announced. I'm sure they're going to sell like hotcakes. But another thing really struck me. In the second interview segment, I touched on the word play when talking to the designers. And whilst I changed that to freedom, they were happy with that word. And they clearly love what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they're so senior, because it is very easy to have been worn down by the business side of things when you get senior, that all you do is sit in a presentation that's being delivered by somebody that's not very interesting, or have to stare at spreadsheets all day, or you're in meetings of very serious matters. These guys really loved their designs, and they get a kick out of going into work. They get a kick out of design, of solving problems, thinking up solutions, and helping their team to do the same. And I came away feeling optimistic.
Yeah.
And that's not like me. It's normally me to find something negative to be to talk about that. I know my role in the world. Don't worry, everyone. You don't have to tell me. But yeah, I came away feeling really optimistic about the vehicles themselves and the thought that has gone behind them.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time on it. I'm glad you learned lots, and hopefully all of you listening have learned lots and possibly even had a good time as well. Thank you, of course, to Kia for the invite. Much appreciated. It's not something that everybody was invited to, so it's always quite nice when we get something like that and we can provide something maybe a little bit different from what many of the big mags and stuff can share with you. I say, hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, between now and the next time, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts with the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, on Instagram and on Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Please don't forget to leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. In the meantime, Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you and ask you a little bit more about these if people think you've missed something?
Yeah, feel free. Best way is either via Blue Sky if you search for a cracked windscreen. Alternatively, I am on LinkedIn under my proper name if that is your preferred platform. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way to get in touch with me is really via Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY.bsky.social. We'll be back before very long, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.